and today we have a very special guest. Um, and let me introduce you all to her. And her name is Kristina Dejesus. Am I saying that correctly?
Yep,
Okay.
Dejesus.
And she is a critical care and forensic nurse in New Jersey. In 2017, she was in a boating accident, which resulted in the loss of her arm. Through tragedy, she's been able to gain a new perspective and noted a need for limb difference awareness. She is a founding member and adaptive model for gamut management. Am I saying that correctly?
Yep, that's right.
Okay. Has modeled during New York Fashion Week, participated in developing the new adaptive line of intimate apparel at Victoria's Secret, which it's really there because I was just shopping at Victoria's Secret and I saw it, and has worked with a big brand companies, given her insight on the need for inclusion. And she actively advocates for amputees and people with disabilities. And she continues to share her story through public speaking, and hence why I invited her today on the show. Since then, Kristina has returned to her much loved nursing profession, continue to inspire and educate her first-hand patient perspective experience. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to be here.
Yes, definitely. Well, it's amazing. I feel like you're doing like 5 careers at the same time.
Feels like that sometimes, that's for sure. Long road has been a long journey in just a couple years. You know, it will be, let's see, 2017. So it will be of the year of my accident, October 7th, 2017.
And tell us a little bit about Victoria's Secret.
So kind of have to backtrack a little bit of how I've gotten involved so much. In 2017, like you said, I was a nurse. I was at I was in critical care. I was pretty seasoned nurse. You know, I was recently married, kind of planning for the future. Unexpectedly happened. I was in the boating accident, and I became a complete right arm amputee. I've had many surgeries, to be exact. I've had to do physical therapy, occupational therapy, pain management, and pain was horrific right after my accident. Still recovering when I went back to the hospital, not in the same exact profession, so to say. I was more an a bedside nurse at that point, but I did go back to the critical care unit, and I was just trying to, you know, manage my new life and get used to everything that changed. And I was reached out to by a lot of different people from the disabled community. They were so welcoming. It just, so many amazing friends. The outreach was enormous. A lot of social media handles reached out to me to share my story. News stations, and you know, it just kind of was a whirlwind. And a nonprofit organization, Runway of Dreams, reached out to me. Has a son with a disability, and she wanted to focus on adaptive clothing. Wanted to wear jeans one day, and he wasn't able to as a child because the way the jeans are made, he needed Velcro, and he needed able to do it himself. So she kind of worked from the bottom to the top to get adaptive clothing in mainstream fashion. So they invited me to do a walk for them, and I was involved in that, and it was just a beautiful organization. And from that, the founder actually found a talent management network that really wants to incorporate the disabled community into vision, fashion, and give them a platform to be able to speak to. And it's a wonderful organization. Started in Way of Dreams, them. And then I worked with Gamut, and Gamut also does a lot of focus groups and really tries to teach these big brand companies how and, you know, share our stories with them so they understand what's needed from their point, from their part us, and those big brands. So we were super psyched to be invited to do that. And it was a panel, a focus group of girls, all women, developed and participated in the making and creating of these intimate apparel. And, you know, different disabilities of all sorts, from wheelchair to amputees, all types, a lot with different limitations. So it was very general on underwear to incorporate. So very sensory driven, front closure magnets in the front, just very sexy, pretty colors, very easy to handle, and everything was fronter for the bras, and that can hold a pretty good amount of weight. And it comes in all different sizes. It's in the body by Victoria, and the pink, and so we were on all the Zoom calls, you know, going back and forth with different fabrics and fasteners and you know, feedback for them. The adaptive collection was born. So it was super exciting.
Yes, and you know what's interesting, you described a field in study which is called design thinking, which is kind of thinking outside the box and using empathy to relate to a customer's need.
Yeah, that was beautifully said.
Yeah.
So true. So
Yeah.
true. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's and it's amazing because there are so many individuals with disabilities, yet you don't see it in the mainstream. And it's so wonderful to have an advocate like yourself that's, you know, making a name for herself, but also stating, hey, there's a need that needs to be filled here.
there sure is. There sure is. And since being a part of the disability community, there is so many models and creative thinking and these change makers that are so driven, and I'm just so inspired by them. I mean, now 37 years old and being teens that have written books, that have been on Oprah, that have done so many amazing things. And you know, I'm here. You're just so inspiring. And I really, you know, this community has given me a little bit of a platform, and these brands have given us platform. So long we really haven't had a voice, this community, and until I was a part of it did I realize that. And it's just so needed, like the I think of now in everyday life, how would a person that's wheelchair bound, you know, do this? It's a lot of my friends are wheelchair, just being in everyday society, holding down a job. And we have to, I almost feel like in some ways we have to be to work, we have to statistic that we have to get there earlier than everybody and not be late because of our disability, and we have work even harder and to get on a train, and they don't even have all the elevator lifts are broken to get on the subway. So it's a lot challenging to kind of have, and you know, I just it's very hard to learn that now, and I didn't see it before at all.
How has your life, because obviously it is a trauma that you went through, and so many individuals go through a similar type of traumas with accidents or diseases and so forth. Because yours is a little different. There's some people that are born with a disability, and then yours actually happened through an accident. How did you go from negative to positive? Because obviously it's trauma. There must have been some grief or some sadness.
Mhm. Perspective. It was a hard pill to swallow initially. I knew that the minute that it happened, in the to be alive. And that's kind of what I focused on, that I'm still here. I can still carry out a pretty normal life. I know it's going to be hard, but shift my perspective. But I think once you speak to people and they learn a story, and so relatable no matter what it is. And that's kind of what I talk about a lot with people, because of loss, and mine is just physical. And just being more involved in the community, it really gave me a different outlook, positive. And I can still dance, and I can still do so many things. I go to the gym, I squat weight, I do so much, and to some extent. But I'm actually pregnant too, so I'm 4.5 months pregnant. So for me and my husband, and just this is going to be just a whole nother part of my life that I have to learn. So I am a little nervous about it, but I know that there's going to be a lot of adjustments, a lot of patience that I'm going to have. But it's just like anything else. Obstacles, different, but still obstacles in their life.
Congratulations on the next chapter of your life, right? And having an addition to the family. My question is, during the whole process, did you even have time to think, or were you like, because some people don't process their trauma quick enough or fast enough, or were you like, no, I don't have time, and you just kept going?
I mean, I will say that the many positives in the actual immediate recovery of the accident was just so amazing. The amount of love, the amount of people that just came together to see me, to take care. I mean, there was just one of our close friends developed like a food chain. So people were dropping off food every day after the incident. And there was, complete strangers that would just show up on my doorstep with tons and tons of food, nurses at different hospitals that I didn't know, wives that were nurses, and everybody was just so amazing. And to have that just once in my life was so many people could experience that. So that immediate reaction, everybody was just so loving and so supportive, was great. But that hospital part and that initial recovery is just a little piece of it. It's a couple weeks after, when you go home, when you're in horrific pain, when you're trying to learn to do your hair as a woman, to get dressed, to do all sorts of things, to cook, to really, I don't want to say on your own, but you have your immediate family that's there every day, that's seeing you go through the pain and this new. It definitely is a challenge, and it took many months to really get in the groove of this new routine. I think it was certainly a journey for me that took many years to, kind of find a routine and get adapted to it.
Do you think that because of your situation and your positivity towards your situation, that is amazing. I congratulate you for that. Do you think that your other career, which is nursing, do you think you're a more empathetic nurse to patients?
That's a good question. To be kind and understanding, and be very realistic and honest, and show that empathy even beforehand. But absolutely, it's a little extra special for me. I just had a patient I was talking to the other day, and we are talking about her surgery, and she's, we're on the phone, so she didn't see. And I'm talking about, though, you can't have, you're very young, you can't understand this. And I said, actually, I was a patient too myself, and questions, and I only share my story when it's relevant. But it definitely is a different perspective on that other side of the bed. taught me a lot in the medical fields. There is a sense of grief. Even now, years later, I can never go back inside. There is a lot I can do, but being realistic, that was what I wanted. That's what I worked so hard for in school. It's certain where I was at the time of the accident. And now, I am adjusting. There is periods of adjustment and absorption of this was like a ripple, throwing a rock in a pond, right? These ripples go on forever. And grief comes in these like waves, and you have years later. But no, I am still grieving my profession, and because it's something that I wanted for so long, and I obtained for a couple of years, and finding my place again in the fields. So I think empathy is definitely there, and I have been looking for a place where I can just share my story, but really help the community, the underserved community of disabled population, because I understand. If anybody understands, it's me.
Although I will tell you that it's amazing, and thank goodness that you had that education and that degree in nursing, that there was some type of way, even you had to, for the job to be adapted towards you or for you, but you still had an opportunity and a possibility. Were not too many people, sometimes they were labor workers or they were construction workers, or whatever they were, and then they have to really figure out what's next for them. And let's face it, in this country, yes, many disabled can apply to have Social Security disability benefits, but for a lot of people, that's not enough. That's not enough income to sustain themselves, and to live the life that they like to live.
A support group that I'm a part of, and most of them don't work, because they physically can't. And I'm so thankful. If I was, a cosmetologist, or if I did something more with my hands, I would be out of job. I would be out of, and thank God there are jobs that I can still do in nursing for sure. But once I hear their stories, and it's just hard for them. And that is a huge part of, them being on disability and them not being able to meet their basic needs is what throws them in spiral. So I definitely am grateful to have the job I have, which is probably a big part of why I am so positive, because I'm one of the lucky ones. Not everybody's in that position, and I see them go through it firsthand, and it's not easy for them at all. And
Definitely. And what I always tell people, there are reasons and ways to continue with life, even though you have A, B, C, D, whatever your disability is, because there's so many ways of being disabled, like you mentioned before. And I tell people, if if you're able to mentally keep yourself busy, which means a part-time job, or if you are on disability and you're like, hey, maybe volunteer one day a week somewhere, or attend school, because when you have to see so many doctors, after a while, you just get tired of being a patient.
oh yeah, oh yeah. I remember after my accident, like that ripple in the pond, I never realized that in addition to getting the amputation site pain and the phantom limb pain, I realized that I was going to experience back pain from the lack of symmetry in my posture. So when I initially went back to unit, I remember days a week, just a couple short hours to just start off. I would come home and I'd be in this horrific back pain, and I would just lie on that and just say, this is not life. I mean, how can I function? I mean, this pain is so debilitating, and 7 months later I'm still myself to sleep. I mean, I would be afraid to go to sleep after my accident because I had a bad PTSD. I was having night terrors so the whole sleep and pain situation was such a challenge. But I just remember thinking, with the pain aspect, this is not for the weak. But I don't feel like this is sustainable to live this way. And it was the constant doctor's appointments and dealing with pharmacies and the stigma in the pharmacies with the pharmacist judging about the pain medications, which is a very real thing. And I actually had to switch. It was a very hard life to live at that point until I got that under control, and I did a lot of exercising. I 4 times a week, but it's really for my body and to keep my back aligned and to really take care of myself. And that was really the only thing that helped. And changing my diet, and I went gluten-free and dairy-free, and I really changed a lot, and I did a lot of holistic approaches. But it a while. I had these periods of like, how can I get through this? What purpose do I have? There was definitely a lot of soul searching. you know some days were good, some days were bad, and I try to be positive. But people don't realize what this type of community goes on a day-to-day basis, getting changed, taking a shower, getting food shopping, delivered, and being able to open a jar of food. There's just so much that goes with it. And it's a lot.
Absolutely. You mentioned purpose, which I like that you did. Do you feel that you have a purpose, or that you found your purpose?
Well, I definitely do. I feel like I find that changes down the line once different things and elements in your life are kind of combined, like my pregnancy. But I felt right after I am a believer of a higher power. And so much part of that day of the accident was really, I mean, just every little piece of my accident involved, the people involved, the helicopter ride, every little thing. So I just always think, like, who am I to question? Just so intentional, and he doesn't make mistakes. And this is my purpose. This was what was written in the stars from the beginning. And just keep going and have faith that the road is going to kind of unravel. And it has been. And I was actually talking about this week last week. She was a 17-year-old girl who was in a car accident. Beautiful, beautiful girl, and she's wheelchair bound now. And kind of talking about it because it was very early on after her accident that I saw her, and she's still trying to figure out that. It's a hard pill to swallow for anybody, but I think you just have to have faith, because I never be with Victoria's Secret helping them, participating in designing a bra. I never thought I would be on the set of The View with Whoopi Goldberg. I never thought I would be brands, and I just never thought I would be meeting all these amazing friends. And when people ask me, like, back in that day and done anything different, and I don't know that I would, to be honest. Honestly, I know that sounds very crazy. I would have never had any of these amazing opportunities had it not been for this one day. And that's why I kind of just believe that this is there was a quota for anybody that had to lose their arm that day. Like, let it be me, because I can deal with it, and some people can. And I people that have taken their lives over accidents and things like that. And I could have been that too. I could have just and it's just like that. Life is so fragile, and I'm just grateful to be doing all this amazing work.
Now, it's really interesting with the modeling jobs. did you ever feel when you were asked or whatnot, did you ever feel fear, be like me, a model, or were you like, oh, I got this?
I think that is debatable because I definitely felt fear. I think for the different things that I did, there is always going to be some backlash, and for the pioneers of it all time at the beginning, you know, some people believe there's no room for us in that field, especially for these big brand companies. Like if it's going to change somebody's opinion or help somebody or make somebody think differently or think that kind of looks like me, I then it's worth it. But I think there definitely were times that I questioned my courage and wondering if I was doing the right thing, and you know getting all sorts of terrible messages on my social media, and like just some people can be super cruel, but for the good of it's just for the purpose. Just do it for the purpose and for the people, and it will change lives. And it's crazy because for Victoria's, right after my accident, for the first time, I went to the mall with my husband, and I was in a dressing room trying to figure out this bra situation, and crying in the dressing room. I'm crying because I couldn't get a bra on by myself. And this Victoria's Secret worker came in because they wouldn't allow my husband in. And so she said, we're going to figure this out. And I would joke with my occupational therapist, one day I'm going to create a bra, this front closure magnetic bra. Crazy that I actually was involved in doing that. So I just think that you never know what you're meant for ever, right? Until you're fighting for it.
My next question is, you've mentioned before in our conversation before, I know I have a timer, so, and I'll edit this part, but if it goes off, I'll send you another link just to finish the podcast.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've mentioned this about discrimination. Can you tell us how you feel you've been discriminated or what can be done?
Yeah. I mean, sadly, you want to get a mix of that. Like the world has very little patience, unfortunately. But I have been discriminated against. I have been yelled at, all sorts of things too. And it's very surprising because when I'm out in the world, which is a lot of confidence on its own to leave my having to try to function, but people have come up to me in the public and some have said some amazing things, some have said some horrible things. It's very hard to gauge if a person's approaching me what they're going to say. And there's all kids that are scared or question. It's almost like you're forced into this activism on your own because you want to teach, you want to make sure you're well received, and it depends on the person and the mood and the day and how busy you are, but it's hit or miss. And some people have been they said some horrific things to me. Some men have said some horrific things to me, but I think the first, I was shopping and a person said something very mean to me, and it really, I understood it. I knew that it wasn't my pain, but it really took a couple weeks for me to let that all sink in and to understand that nothing to do with me and this. But unfortunately, it was discrimination, and I just feel like this person really was educated, or maybe didn't have family member and was hurting in her own life. So I try not to take it personally, but it took a long time after that incident even leave the shaking. I just automatically, I was scared of the world, and I do see a therapist and on and off because things come up and down. And they've helped tremendously. I mean, they are specialized in PTSD, but I think teach when there is discrimination. And, you know, at that point with the specific person, I did call authorities, I did make a police report. But I think understanding it was the really hard part. And, you know, really absorbing that and seeing what, unfortunately, there is going to be good and bad, but I think the good certainly outweighs the bad, and to really teach people that kindness matters, because this community, it's there. Every single person on this planet is actually going to be part of this community at one point in their life, whether it's very young or very, very, we'll have to just be a little more kinder to each other, and, you know, not attack people. And, you know, people come up to me and they feel like they have the right to know, oh, such a person, car wash or a gas station, and it's, you know, why, where did my arm go, what happened? And, you know, it can get you off guard. Everybody has the right to know, and everybody deserves to pick and choose who they share their story with. And I think that's really send to people, is just to be kind, because it's not easy the minute we leave the house, you know, whether it's crutches or a wheelchair or walker or you know, and, you know, we wear all of our insecurities physically right in front of our faces. And, you know, it can be.
Thank you so much for sharing with that. And I think all of us in our own some way or shape, we've all been discriminated against. You know, I think the world always picks apart that one flaw or the couple flaws that a person has. So lastly, Kristina, we're coming to the end of the podcast, and this is the question I ask all my guests. What is your message for the audience?
It's just that. It's just a really old person, whether it's somebody different, how they look, you know, just to really be kind to everybody. And, you know, hatred has no place here. And we are all have battles to face. And, you know, it's never easy. And I think if people shared their stories more and understood more, everything is so relatable, and we're all in it fighting together. And, you know, I just wish that we had a bigger platform, kind, and gave us a little bit more patience, and, you know, just make the world a little bit of a better place and easier for us to navigate in it, because of how hard it is to go out in the world every day.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kristina. Thank you so much for being a guest and sharing your story.